in court and reveals horrifying news. Now, y'all know who Dave is. Look him up. Look him up. Just look him up. I'm not gonna explain nothing. I'm not gonna give no details on who he is. I don't want to know who he is. But look him up. Y'all gonna find out. Let's jump into this video. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the post notifications, and let's go.
Played it for her in the car. And she was like, David, this song is too violent. You talking about killing people in your music? No, not my son.
When David kept singing songs about murdering people, we all thought it was creative. Now, the unthinkable has happened and his girlfriend is dead. However, the Celeste Rivers case has revealed a much darker secret, and you wouldn't believe who snitched. The truth is finally revealed. The courtroom sat in silence, not because anyone had ordered it, but because the weight of what everyone had just heard made sound impossible. The walls seemed to absorb the air itself. When the camera panned across the gallery, faces remained motionless, stunned into disbelief. On the bench, the judge adjusted her glasses, eyes fixed on the young man sitting beside his attorney. It wasn't David speaking. It wasn't even anyone charged. It was someone else, someone no one had expected to talk. And yet when they stood and said, "I'm sorry," it was as if the entire case had shifted on its axis. But before that moment, before the apology that would set social media aflame, the world had already been watching, dissecting, and speculating. What began as a rumor on TikTok had become one of the most unsettling cultural obsessions of 2025. It all started not in a courtroom, but in a dusty
Oh my God. 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 This is the girl I seen on Instagram from Charlotte, North Carolina. Now, God, why? Listen, I just lost a friend in North Carolina. He got shot in the face at a sleepover, and it's horrifying. It like attacks me every single night. I try to go to sleep, but I still get through it because I know I'm strong. I know I'm powerful. But I seen this girl multiple times on Instagram. I was like, she looked familiar. She looks familiar. I don't know where from. We gonna get more info. But oh my God, I seen that face like 20, 50 times in North Carolina. I know I did. It's sad. It's sad.
lot in Los Angeles, where a tow yard employee followed a smell he would never forget. On September 8, 2025, at a Hollywood tow facility on Mansfield Avenue, staff performing a standard inventory check of an impound made a horrific discovery. The vehicle, towed 3 days earlier after being reported abandoned on Bluebird Avenue in the Hollywood Hills, was registered to a 20-year-old rising musician, David Anthony Burke, better known to the world as David. Inside the car's front trunk lay the badly decomposed remains of a teenage girl, later identified as 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez of Lake Elsinore, California. Dental records confirmed what her family had already feared for months. Celeste was dead.
She from California. I seen her in North Carolina before. I promise you, I seen her in North Carolina before. I don't know why. I just seen her in North Carolina before. And she on the Charlotte Lit thing, so.
According to law enforcement sources, that her body was not intact, and that it appeared that she may have been dead inside that car for an extended period of time.
The car, authorities said, had likely been parked for weeks in the summer heat, baking under the sun. When officers opened the trunk, decomposition gases hissed outward. Inside was a body weighing barely 71 pounds, the final trace of a life that had slipped quietly out of the world months before anyone knew where to look. Celeste's story had already been marked by disappearance. Between February 2024 and April 2025, sheriff's deputies had responded to her family's Lake Elsinore home home 11 times for missing person and welfare calls. Her family described her as troubled but artistic, a dreamer who wanted to sing, and who at some point met a boy who was already becoming famous. That boy was David Burke, who by 2025 had transformed from an introverted Houston teenager making music on his iPhone into a global phenomenon. His breakout hit, Romantic Homicide, was closing in on 2 billion streams, and his debut album Withered had debuted at number 13 on the Billboard 200. His music videos, stylized in grayscale melancholy, often depicted surreal scenes, heartbreak, isolation, and in one case, a lover being placed inside a car trunk. What had once been dismissed as performance art began to feel disturbingly literal once police found Celeste's body in a vehicle eerily similar to the one in his videos. Within 48 hours, LAPD's Robbery Homicide Division executed a search warrant on the Hollywood Hills mansion that Burke had been renting for $20,000 a month. They seized multiple computers, hard drives, and phones for forensic examination. Burke left the property soon after. Detectives described him as cooperative but offered no further details. Within 48 hours, LAPD searched the Hollywood Hills home David was staying at and seized multiple devices. And now the internet's been asking, why hasn't David been arrested yet? In their September 29th statement, the LAPD clarified that no arrests had been made, emphasizing that the case remained open and active. The words that followed became the most quoted sentence in every news cycle that week. It remains unclear whether there is any criminal culpability beyond the concealment of her body. That phrase, beyond concealment, triggered a frenzy of speculation online. Was it an accidental death, a cover-up, a homicide? And most importantly, what was David's role, if any, in the disappearance of a 15-year-old fan who seemed to know him far more intimately than anyone imagined? Celeste's last known sighting dated back to Valentine's Day 2025, the same day she was reported missing after another runaway incident. Her family's GoFundMe would later describe her as a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend, but the comments beneath it told a darker story. Users posted screenshots of Discord messages allegedly showing private exchanges between her and David. Others circulated photos of matching tattoos, small cursive shh marks inked on both of their index fingers. Her mother confirmed the tattoo was real, saying Celeste had gotten it to match her boyfriend David. In a different timeline, that detail might have been trivial, but in this case it became Exhibit A in an online investigation that blurred the line between justice and hysteria. Viral threads pieced together grainy screenshots, song lyrics, and fan DMs into a digital conspiracy board that spanned every platform. Theories proliferated: grooming, overdose cover-up, even elite industry involvement. Some insisted she'd lied about her age, others claimed the Tesla was planted. Amid the noise, one truth held steady: a teenage girl had died, and her body had been left inside the car of a pop star. The autopsy, conducted by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner, offered no immediate closure. Due to severe decomposition, the cause and manner of death were listed as deferred. Toxicology tests were ordered, but results could take months. No blunt force trauma was evident, and pregnancy was ruled out, a fact that would later dismantle one of the internet's most viral theories. The coroner's office released her body to the family on September 23rd, allowing a private funeral 2 weeks later at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Rowland Heights. By then, the media storm had turned David's name into a synonym for suspicion. Brands cut ties. Crocs, Hollister, and Spotify's editorial playlist team pulled collaborations. His manager issued a single statement: "We are cooperating with authorities and had no knowledge of his personal association." Collaborator Kali Uchis scrubbed their joint song Crashing from streaming platforms. Even Olympic skater Marissa Joe replaced her program music overnight, citing personal reasons. Within a week, the singer's career collapsed in real time. He deactivated comments, canceled shows, and unfollowed nearly everyone on social media. His silence became its own story. As one analyst on Rolling Stone noted, he's not just being investigated, he's being erased. The LAPD maintained its neutrality. Captain Scott Williams, head of the Robbery Homicide Division, told reporters the department was still examining every aspect of this case to uncover the truth. Yet despite official restraint, the narrative took on a life of its own. For many online, the parallels between David's art and Celeste's death were impossible to ignore. His breakout single, Romantic Homicide, written years earlier, contained the line, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it." The accompanying video, released in 2022, featured imagery that fans now described as prophetic. A dark-haired woman collapsing beside a car, the artist drenched in rain, eyes vacant. What once represented metaphor now looked like foreshadowing. Did he predict it or confess it before it happened? Even forensic experts tried to temper the hysteria. Private investigator Steve Fisher explained that the body's condition, extreme decay, no visible trauma, suggested possible overdose or heat-related death rather than direct violence. But until toxicology results arrived, everything remained speculation. The LAPD, he emphasized, was focused on concealment, not homicide. Still, the words concealment of a body carried their own implications. Someone knew she was dead, and someone decided to hide her.
Investigators are still trying to figure out just how deep that connection goes, and that's the part we we don't know yet. On one hand, the Tesla was in fact registered to David, and her body was discovered inside. On the other hand, police sources have said it's one of several vehicles linked to David, and that multiple people had access to those cars at different times.
This was the crux of the legal dilemma. The Tesla was registered to Burke, but celebrities rarely managed their own vehicle. Staff, friends, and assistants frequently used them. Registration alone could never prove possession. The prosecution would need a digital fingerprint, something from the seized electronics tying a specific person to that specific car at that specific time. Without that, the LAPD risked arresting someone whose guilt couldn't survive a courtroom. That's why the case seemed frozen. As the medical examiner delayed its findings, detectives turned to the data: GPS logs, phone pings, text archives, and cloud backups. Every byte could redraw the timeline. If Celeste entered that Tesla alive, someone would have texted her after. If she didn't, someone deleted the evidence. By early October, those devices were still under forensic analysis. Detectives had not confirmed whether Celeste's phone was recovered. Celeste's funeral came quietly. On October 6, 2025, mourners gathered beneath an overcast sky at Queen of Heaven Cemetery, where her casket, white, delicate, and covered in lilies, was lowered into the ground. Her family clutched one another, surrounded by cameras they had not invited. The ceremony was private, but footage leaked within hours. Online sleuths slowed the clip frame by frame, analyzing faces in attendance, wondering if David himself had been there in disguise. None of those claims were ever confirmed. By then, even mainstream outlets like the Los Angeles Times had begun describing the story as a modern media autopsy. Every detail of Celeste's life, her age, her DMs, her friendships, became open source material for an audience, hungry for closure. But the investigation itself remained painfully static. The medical examiner's office reiterated: cause and manner deferred. No homicide ruling, no charges, no arrests. What the public didn't know was that behind courtroom doors, motions were quietly being filed, procedural, sealed, unannounced. The defense was already shaping its shield, and the LAPD was waiting for lab results that might never arrive in full clarity. A decomposed body tells little. A digital trail, on the other hand, can speak volumes. As weeks passed, the unanswered question, who placed her there, became the obsession of millions. Online detectives mapped the Hollywood Hills on Google Earth, marking every camera, every gate. They cross-referenced Tesla GPS logs from fan-submitted VIN databases. They even tracked Bluebird Avenue, where the car had sat for weeks, through parking tickets filed by the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. Every detail seemed to point in multiple directions at once. But inside the LAPD, investigators narrowed their focus. They had identified a small circle of individuals with access to the vehicle, including Burke's driver, his manager, and one unnamed associate who, according to phone records, had been in the Hollywood Hills the night Celeste likely died. That associate would later appear in court, and though they weren't charged, their statement would ignite the words that opened this story. I'm sorry. For now, though, in the early weeks of October, the case remained publicly suspended, a paradox of too much noise and too few facts. The apology in court was still weeks away, but the pieces that would make it inevitable were already in motion. A missing girl, a car filled with silence, a musician whose songs about death had come back to haunt him. The lyrics sealed the deal. From the moment Celeste Rivas Hernandez's name entered the headlines, David's music was pulled into the investigation, not as evidence in the legal sense, but as cultural testimony. His songs became court exhibits in the digital arena, dissected by strangers searching for meaning that law could not provide. The most scrutinized track was Romantic Homicide, released in 2022, the song that made him famous. Its refrain, "In the back of my mind, I killed you," became a viral motif once Celeste's death was confirmed. It wasn't new. It had already defined his aesthetic of heartbreak and self-blame. But in 2025, those lyrics were replayed with new and disturbing context. Analysts from Rolling Stone noted that the song's resurgence was an act of cultural recontextualization, the world reinterpreting art through tragedy rather than truth. Listening to his own explanation of his lyrics, it's hard to ignore the facts.
She died, and I didn't even cry, not a single tear. So if you can expel that thought from your mind, then everything else will just come together.
The LAPD never cited any of David's songs in their official investigation, and no court filings or motions referenced his music. According to the Los Angeles Superior Court's public docket, evidence submissions in connection with the Celeste Hernandez case contained no lyrical content or recordings. Still, perception overtook procedure. By mid-October 2025, Spotify streams for Romantic Homicide had risen by 130%, coinciding exactly with peak coverage of Celeste's death, according to Billboard Data Tracker, October 2025. TikTok TikTok edits spliced his lyrics over news footage, painting art as confession. Her observation reflected the shift. Tragedy had blurred with performance. Every song became suspect. Every verse potential evidence of foreknowledge. That didn't stop the commentary. Opinion writers and podcast hosts began labeling the phenomenon as lyrical profiling, the act of using an artist's work to build speculative guilt. Legal experts compared it to historic cases where rap lyrics were used against performers in court, citing the 2023 California law limiting such practices. In November, The New Yorker published an essay titled The Silence of David, which argued that the world's need for narrative closure has transformed lyrics into pseudo-evidence, according to The New Yorker. The essay detailed how fans and detractors alike built emotional cases using his own art, pulling from Here With Me, This Is How It Feels, and Worthless to construct psychological profiles. But these interpretations had no factual grounding. No warrants were issued based on lyrical content. No prosecutor or detective drew conclusions from his songwriting. Instead, the connection between the songs and the case reflected the power of narrative over evidence, a phenomenon magnified by social media. TikTok trends like #HeSaidItFirst and #Romantic Homicide Theory amassed millions of views, each framing metaphor as motive. By December, Billboard reported that David's entire discography had seen an unprecedented spike in engagement, over 90 million combined weekly streams, making him both the most listened to and most speculated about Gen Z Artist of the Year. Yet, throughout all of it, neither LAPD nor the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office cited his lyrics in any official briefing. The evidence remained confined to forensics, witness testimony, and the autopsy, not poetry. Still, the public trial of interpretation persisted. Fans divided into camps, those who saw prophecy in his songs and those who saw persecution. Commentators likened it to the case of rapper YNW Melly, whose Murder on My Mind became a courtroom exhibit years before California restricted such use. For investigators, the case remained legally inert, open but unsolved. For culture, it remained an echo chamber, looping the same question. When art sounds too much like reality, do we stop listening or start accusing?
Free YNW Melly. He's innocent.
Days turn into weeks. By the second week of October 2025, Los Angeles was vibrating with the noise of speculation. Every outlet from TMZ to Rolling Stone ran daily headlines on what they were calling the Tesla tragedy. Yet inside Parker Center's glass headquarters, the LAPD's robbery homicide division remained unmoved. They had one decomposed body, one registered vehicle, one pop culture phenomenon turned suspect in limbo, and thousands of unanswered questions. Captain Scott Williams' voice echoed through the briefing room that Monday morning. "We are not pursuing a suspect or person of interest at this stage," he repeated, the same line that had already appeared in half a dozen interviews. Mr. Burke continues to cooperate. We still have questions about the circumstances surrounding the teen's death. Cooperation or not, the silence around David Anthony Burke had become deafening. After the search of his Doheny Drive rental, the artist had effectively vanished. Neighbors said movers came at night, hauling out recording gear and furniture. By morning, the house was empty. His last public sighting was a blurred paparazzi photo near LAX, head down, hoodie pulled tight. He looked less like a celebrity under siege than a ghost in retreat. The internet, however, was doing anything but retreat. On TikTok, the hashtag #JusticeForCeleste passed 400 million views. Discord servers sprang up dedicated to decoding the case, each promising real evidence that never quite materialized. Entire YouTube channels were built around timeline reconstructions and lyric analyses, searching for meaning inside songs written years before Celeste's death. What united the chaos was the same burning question the host voiced at 018. Why hasn't David been arrested yet? The short answer was science. The long answer was politics. Forensic backlogs had left the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner waiting on toxicology results that could take 8 weeks or more. Without a clear cause of death, prosecutors...
The police gotta say they don't got enough evidence. They don't got enough proof to convict them. But they do got stuff on him to put him in jail. But they want to find everything so they could convict them for everything. So that's how police do it. It's smart, but I think I should do it a different way too. But
could not charge anyone with homicide. The term deferred, stamped on the official autopsy report, became both a bureaucratic classification and a national obsession. News anchors explained it nightly. Reddit users turned it into a meme. Every delay felt like proof of conspiracy. Behind the scenes, however, detectives were quietly running down leads, phone metadata, Tesla's GPS telemetry, neighborhood CCTV. Each clue opened a new corridor of possibility. None yet opened a door. Then came the first courtroom filing. On October 10th, the Los Angeles Superior Court confirmed confirmed that Blair Burke, one of Hollywood's most formidable defense attorneys, had formally entered an appearance on behalf of David Anthony Burke. Her resume read like a Hollywood scandal anthology. Harvey Weinstein, Lindsay Lohan, Kanye West, Mel Gibson, Britney Spears. She was not a crisis PR specialist. She was a strategist who played for the long game. Even prosecutors agreed off record that without toxicology, their hands were tied. The city could not afford a wrongful arrest of a global celebrity only to watch the case collapse on cross-examination. The public wanted handcuffs. The DA wanted certainty. Meanwhile, digital evidence units were piecing together Celeste's final movements. Her phone had last pinged a Riverside cell tower in early August 2025, then went dark. Detectives recovered fragments of a Snapchat archive showing she'd saved pictures inside a Hollywood Hills bedroom resembling Burke's rental. Same mirrored headboard, same neon sign reading "withered." No timestamp metadata survived. Screenshots circulate faster than proof. Still, the resemblance was enough to justify deeper forensics on Burke's devices. Inside the LAPD, a different kind of tension brewed. Forensic analysts at the department's digital crimes unit had discovered partial GPS logs indicating the Tesla had last been moved around August 22, 2025, roughly 2 weeks before its impound. The coordinates placed it within 0.4 miles of Burke's rented property. That data didn't prove who drove it, but it narrowed the timeline dramatically. If Celeste's body had been inside the car since late August, she had died at least 2 weeks before discovery. She died earlier. Someone had preserved or moved her later. Either scenario implied knowledge. Knowledge implied guilt, or at minimum, fear. That forensic timeline became the axis of the case. Detectives reconstructed call records, verified security camera timestamps, and cross-checked Tesla's Sentry Mode cache, footage automatically stored when the car senses motion. Portions of the SSD had degraded in heat, but one surviving clip dated August 24th, 11:17 p.m. showed faint silhouettes near the front of the vehicle. The images were too grainy for identification, but a timestamp was enough to establish movement long after the car was supposedly abandoned. When this leaked to the Daily Beast, the headline screamed, "The Tesla moved itself." Within hours, the video trended on X, miscaptioned as "David caught on camera." LAPD had to release a clarifying note. The footage was inconclusive. The public didn't care. The narrative was already viral. Inside an actual courtroom, though, the defense was already laying groundwork. Burke filed a motion requesting that all investigative materials remain sealed to prevent trial by internet. Prosecutors didn't oppose it. Judge Elaine Navarro granted it the same day. Overnight, the public lost access to newly filed evidence inventories. To most people, the blackout looked like a cover-up. To attorneys, it looked like due process. While Los Angeles argued, Houston, Burke's hometown, began erasing him from its own landmarks. Murals featuring his likeness were quietly painted over. Local radio dropped his catalog. School talent shows that had once covered Here With Me replaced it with Olivia Rodrigo. The symbolism was cruel but efficient. The city disowned its prodigy before a jury could. Outside, the fog thickened. Conspiracy creators pivoted from who did it to why is it hidden. A viral TikTok stitched courtroom footage from unrelated trials to fake captions like "Burke cries as evidence shown." The clip hit 10 million views before moderators removed it. That legal limbo defined the following week. Online outrage called it favoritism. Attorneys called it the Constitution. Still, the optics were brutal. A famous man freed, a teenage girl buried, a family demanding justice that science could not yet deliver. And then, quietly, almost invisibly, the first courtroom appearance was scheduled. It wasn't a murder trial. It was a procedural hearing on evidence custody. October 30th, 2025, Department 109, Stanley Mosque. Courthouse. Few noticed the calendar entry until a court blogger posted a photo of the docket. Within hours, fans lined the street outside the courthouse, cameras ready. None expected what would happen inside. Inside the chamber, reporters counted fewer than 20 seats. Burke himself did not appear. His attorney did. The hearing lasted 30 minutes, largely administrative. But at its close, the judge allowed a short statement from a witness whose name was under protective order, believed to be one of the individuals with access to Burke's vehicles. News outlets pounced. Variety called it a haunting confession from the periphery. Social media reframed it as a guilty plea that never happened. The truth lay somewhere between. A moment of remorse that changed no facts but altered every perception. That single line re-energized the case. Detectives subpoenaed 2 additional witnesses, both former associates in Burke's management circle. One of them, unnamed in filings, was believed to have borrowed the Tesla weeks before its impoundment. When questioned, they invoked counsel. The next hearing was set for mid-November. Publicly, Burke downplayed the revelation, but the damage was done. The phrase "said something sooner" echoed across headlines, spliced into TikTok edits with clips of Romantic Homicide's chorus. The line blurred reality and art once again. While the courtroom subplot unfolded, the LAPD received preliminary analytics from Apple's compliance division. One of Burke's seized devices contained unsent drafts of notes dated early September. One entry read only, "They'll blame me anyway." Another, "If you love someone, you let go even if it kills you." Investigators could not verify authorship. The text lacked metadata. Still, the phrasing felt poetic, almost performative. Whether those words were song lyrics or diary fragments, prosecutors filmmakers couldn't use them, too ambiguous, too easily interpreted as creative writing. Yet their existence circulated through the press, feeding the archetype of the tortured artist whose fiction and reality had collapsed. Music journalists dissected Withered anew, calling it a pre-mortem memoir. Every verse became an evidentiary footnote. Academics wrote essays about metaphorical confession. None mentioned that art, by definition, isn't sworn testimony. Amid the speculation, one immutable fact emerged from the coroner's supplementary report on November 3rd. No evidence of pregnancy, no skeletal fractures, trace amounts of diphenhydramine, Benadryl. That trace could indicate allergy medication or overdose. For the first time, investigators considered accidental asphyxiation inside the closed vehicle as plausible. If Celeste had entered the Tesla alive, perhaps sleeping, perhaps intoxicated, the combination of heat and confined air could have been fatal. Concealment afterward remained criminal, but qualitatively different from murder. The nuance didn't translate online. Overdose cover-up trended again, stripping away the science to keep the outrage intact. Outside the courthouse, protesters held candles and signs reading "Say."
Listen, the fans know it. The authorities know it. They know he was involved. They know he was. They just want the truth for this young little girl. Didn't even get to graduate. Show her true talent. That's the thing about people now. Like, y'all kill for the wrong things. Like, I be seeing videos of men killing people over little girls that don't want to have sex with them. Like, come on. Like, y'all killing these beautiful women, these beautiful queens, and like, y'all not even noticing. Like, but if y'all enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, prayers for her family, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.